Ever since watching The Haunting of Hill House episode 6, your boy ain't never been the same. That show scared the daylights out of me. The bent neck lady.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Why don't you listen?
I don't know.
Because I'm telling you.
I'm
trying to tell you.
I don't need to hear your excuses.
I'm not making excuses.
Bullshit.
I saw.
She's still petrifying. So when I heard that Netflix renewed it for a second series, I was scared. Look at my channel. I don't even have a video on Hill House because it took me months to get through that. But you know what? I decided I'm gonna put my big boy pants on. I'm gonna watch Bly Manor and I'm gonna face my fear. Whew, thank God it's a love story, guys. Haunting of Bly Manor is a love story as opposed to Haunting of Hill House, which is a horror story dealing with grief, tragedy, and familial bonds being separated. This movie is more about hope, love, forgiveness, and togetherness, so I can watch it. With that being said, guys, welcome to the Bin Zone. On today's video, we're going to be breaking down Bly Manor, looking at the love story and why this show, while having horror elements, ultimately is a story about love, forgiveness, and hope. And the series starts off and we're at a wedding. And during that wedding, they're telling ghost stories and a woman decides to sit down and tell them the story of the haunting of Bly Manor. And her story begins with an au pair named Danny. If you look up the word au pair, you'll see it's pretty much a picture of Danny's character right there, right? Like, that's Danny. And this au pair gets a job by Henry Wingrave, and she has to go to Bly Manor and raise his niece and nephew whose parents have died. And the previous au pair of Bly Manor killed herself tragically. Damn, that was corny. So off rip, red flag should have been alerted right then and there, but Danny decides, this is a cushy job. I live in a mansion, I gotta watch some kids, I have a housekeeper, I have a chef, I have a driver, and I have a gardener. Man, easy peasy lemon squeezy. So she goes to Bly Manor, and the first thing we see is Flora playing by the lake with a talisman / voodoo doll thing. And at first I'm like, okay, creepy little kids, I'm in for a ride. And following that, we meet Hannah and Miles by the well. And Hannah seems to be dazed and confused. At first I thought, what's down the well? But you know, I gave it no second thought. And this whole scene was so perfect because this is the very moment that Hannah died. And we, the audience, have no idea. Hannah don't know. The kids don't know. But if you pay attention throughout the first few episodes, before we find out she died, the signs and the hints were there. She never ate. She never drank. So they were dropping Easter eggs throughout. And I want to say, guys, if you guys want more Easter eggs, check out my podcast in the description box below, the Magical Negro podcast, where we actually talk about the Haunting of Bly Manor in detail, the ghosts, the Easter eggs, and all that. But this video is more about the theme of love and how it permeates throughout Bly Manor. Even though there's a lady from the lake walking in and out, killing people, she's also looking for true love. And what is a love story if a ghost who has passed hundreds of years ago can't get up every night, walk through a mansion, looking for her loved ones? Beautiful stuff. Just beautiful. While faceless ghosts are roaming Bly Manor and killing people, the undertone of it all is a love story. Dealing with love, finding love, and losing love. It's a typical story. Boy meets girl, they fall in love, they're about to spend their life together, bam, one of us dies. That typically makes for a beautiful love story. If you don't believe me, look at The Walk to Remember. Many people say that's the greatest love story of all time, right? Even though the best love story to me is The Notebook by far. Now, the first love story we're following is Danny and her former fiance. At first, we didn't know that was her fiance. I personally thought that was a stalker a la Brainy from Hey Arnold, just breathing down her neck. But after we found out the backstory behind it, it's an actually tragic story. Danny's childhood friend, they grew up together, decided to get married, and then Danny breaks his heart and kills him. Now, I know, Danny didn't really kill him. Danny was just being honest, and the honesty, he couldn't take it, stepped out the car and got hit by a bus. And because of that, he has been following Danny all along. Danny can't go to sleep. She can't even look at a mirror without seeing his ghost, and the guilty conscience that because she wanted to follow her heart and not be with him, she caused somebody to die. She's being haunted by a ghost, and throughout the first few episodes, he's just there. But once Danny finds other love and is able to move on, he kind of just disappears, and I'm sitting here like, okay, that's the first warning sign of this is not your typical ghost story, because she got a girlfriend and now the ghost is gone. Miles, Flora, and Henry, this is familial love. Miles and Flora are brother and sister, and their parents died. However, only one of their parents died because Flora is actually Uncle Henry's daughter. And we see that this familial love kind of got a little too close because you see Henry and his sister-in-law getting it on, giving birth to Flora. So Flora is like Miles' sister and cousin. It's like we're delving deep into Cersei and Jaime Lannister territory because Peter, Quint, and Rebecca were about to possess their bodies, and I'm sitting here thinking, if Peter is in love with Rebecca, and Rebecca's in love with Peter, and they possess the bodies of brothers and sisters, and they leave Bly Manor, but they still love each other, what does that mean? That even though their spirits are different, they're actually related? Let's leave that behind. I don't even want to think about that. But their story deals with the pain of loss and familial love. Henry is their parent, father figure, but because of his involvement, because of his love with his sister-in-law, and that causes their death, he's afraid to actually get close to the kids, because it's as though whoever you love passes away. Danny loved her fiance, died. He loved his sister-in-law, died. So he's afraid to actually give in and love his nieces and nephews, because if he does, they might die. And then we move on to our favorite scammer, Peter Quint. Peter Quint at first was charming and debonair, but we come to find out that he's a scammer, finesser. He's been robbing the Wingraves, trying to build a life for himself, and he wants to take Rebecca with him. At first, I thought Peter was just a piece of shit scumbag, and he became my favorite character, because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I love piece of shit characters. Like, I really do. Like, because they add more dynamic range to a season or a show, and they make it far more interesting. But as we learn more about Peter's dynamic, we find out about his home life and how his daddy was touching him. And I'm starting to see a pattern in this show where family members are not off limits, and it's kind of weird. But the story of Peter is him being traumatized by his parents and him finally finding love. And the moment he found love, the moment he's about to take Rebecca away after robbing the Wingraves blind, the lady in the lake gets him and kills him. And I'm sitting here like, bruh. And then we get to the lady in the lake. The lady in the lake, Viola, is it Viola or Viola? Viola. Viola's story is also a tragic one. She also marries a family member because she marries her cousin in order to keep Bly Manor. Her sister ends up killing her and stealing her life and trying to steal the treasures of her daughter. When Viola finally has the life she wants, she has her daughter, she has her husband, she's happy, bam, death comes. It's as though all these characters reach out for love and they're denied by death. They found love in Bly Manor, so they can't let it go. Even though the gravity wall that keeps them there is Viola's will, defying God, it's actually love transcending God, and them staying in this realm is for them to stay close to their loved ones. Because Hannah, who got killed in the well, never left, and that's because she's in love with Owen. Through all the years of her being with Owen, even her safe space in her mind is her first meeting with Owen. So now we have all these characters haunting Bly Manor, all these characters hovering around, kind of stalking their loved ones, can't move on. Peter's trying to find a way to finesse the kids, steal their bodies, and scam them, and rob them of their life. And I'm like, it's in the name of love. So can we really hate Peter? But ultimately, Bly Manor comes down to Danny and Jamie. Throughout the entire season, the story has been narrated to us by the narrator, and we had no idea who she is or how does she even know this story. And we find out at the end, Danny is in love with Jamie, and they get together, and Danny does the ultimate sacrifice for love, and she takes the spirit of the lady in the lake within her, and she lives her life haunted by her, with her on the surface trying to come out. And Jamie could have easily been like, you know what? I'm not dealing with a ghost-possessed woman, but her love for Danny allowed them to spend a great year together until Danny finally ended her life protecting Viola and protecting Bly Manor. And when Danny takes Viola, she's able to put all the spirits that were in Bly Manor at rest, and they could all cross over with their loved ones. They could all be together. Peter and Rebecca transition together. Henry comes into the daughter's life. Hannah's able to let Owen go and finally move on, and you have a closure. And because Jamie is still in love with Danny, after years of them being apart, every night Jamie runs up her water bill by flooding the tub and the sink with water, hoping Danny shows up. And she opens the door, leaves it a crack open, stands there, waits for Danny's spirit, and at the end, when all hope is lost, Danny puts her hand on Jamie's shoulder, and we know love lives on. Man, when I tell you, Bly Manor may not have been as scary as The Haunting of Hill House, but the story itself was beautiful. While they're overcoming so much tragedies, love overcomes all. Love is triumphant, and I love me a good love story. And I love the fact that it's disguised as a horror, when in actuality, it's a love story. And the funny thing is, it's so easy to go from being in love with somebody and being horrified. Look at Danny and her fiance. He was in love 1 second, and because she didn't want him, he was disgusted and horrified by her, and spat, the bus got him. But anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on The Haunting of Hill House. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and tell me, what is your favorite love story? Because I'd love to hear about it in the comment section below. But guys, until next time, binge on.